Let's take for
You
All right,
want
there
to
we go.
touch you want to touch on like a couple other main storylines, I guess, like maybe the Vikings beating the Packers.
Yeah,
Uh
we can. Yeah,
Ravens look like they're back on track.
yeah.
Um
Jags. We can touch on those. Those
yeah,
three. I feel like the
yeah,
Jags are the only winless team, so we can touch on that as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Dude, what the Buccaneers did to the Eagles just makes the Broncos win like so much
Yeah, it
better.
makes them look a lot better. Because I think they were still just as hurt. I don't think they had that many guys back. I don't.
Yeah,
Mayfield,
yeah,
I know wasn't there,
right.
so that's a good win. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Sideline. My name is Rishioza.
My name's Asher Hire.
We got a consistent schedule going. We're at least going once a week. It might not be the same
Oh
day every
yeah.
week, but at least it's once a week.
It's
Got a
either
little
Tuesday,
midday
Wednesday. It's
stream.
either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. One of those
Yeah,
days
yeah.
will
One
be
of the
up.
days. One of
And
the days.
we get them out before the week starts. We might barely get it out before the week starts, but it is before the week starts.
Yeah, maybe like 6 hours before the week starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, nonetheless, before the week starts, week 4 of the NFL season is done. And man, one of the more surprising games that the Broncos have played in the last 4 years, or maybe the most surprising wins that they've had. I'll say that in the last 4 years. I think that Cowboys won in 2021 is a huge win. Obviously, the Chiefs won last year is a big one, but this one is also up there. There were like 5 different points this game where I'm like, "Yep, that's it. That's the moment that the Jets are going to take over. Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing," and then just didn't happen. So yeah, what a game. What a game for the defense. They have been incredible the entire year, and they continue to do so no matter what the conditions are, no matter what quarterback they're playing, if they're on the road, they're at home. So big time game from them. I think we can start with the other storylines that we were talking about before. We'll start with the Vikings moving to 4-0. I think they're the only unbeaten team left, right? I think
I
it's
believe so. Yeah, there's no the Chiefs,
Chiefs, yes, sorry. They
which
just
like,
don't
but it doesn't
they
feel like
shouldn't be.
it. Right.
Yeah, because the Vikings are actually playing at an undefeated
Yeah.
team level. They're just playing like the Chiefs last year and have gotten lucky in a couple of games. But the Vikings, 4-0. Sam Darnold still looks incredible. Their run game looks incredible. Aaron Jones had a good game back in Green Bay. Their defense obviously still looks great, forcing what 4 turnovers against Jordan Love, who came back and just threw it 60 times and was the reincarnation of Brett Favre out there. And yeah, that team looks good. Like legitimately, they look really, really good. And I mean, I didn't expect them to be bad this season, but I didn't expect them to start off 4-0.
No, exactly right. And Kevin O'Connell's leading the head coach of the year odds for sure right now. And that's because we came into the year thinking the Vikings weren't going to be that good. Whereas if we came into the year thinking the Vikings would be amazing, Kevin O'Connell wouldn't be up there. But the job he's done, I mean, we know like him and Brian Flores are, top offensive mind in the league, top defensive mind in the league, probably. So when you have both of those guys on the same team, you're going to be good really no matter what. And I mean, it's just showing like the defense, coming in this year, it's just a lot of, I know they still have Harrison Smith out there and they picked up Jonathan Grenard, but you weren't expecting that much with Danielle Hunter leaving. Just not much big name talent, I guess, on the defensive end. But man, like Josh Metellus is amazing. Their cornerbacks are good. It really, I like Van Ginkel a lot too. Their defense really reminds me of the Broncos so far. These two teams
Yeah,
are blitzing at the highest rate in the NFL. Um, I mean, it's not the same defense like really, but they send a ton of pressure. Vance Joseph sends like different types of they play different defenses, but it's kind of similar, I guess, overall like thinking behind Flores and Vance Joseph. And so, I mean, That defense combined to go along with Kevin O'Connell's like brilliance. Their receivers are awesome. Their running backs, I mean, Aaron Jones looks amazing. Ty Chandler is a good runner. Um, and obviously the work that they've done with Sam Darnold is just spectacular. And it's really cool to see this rejuvenation of quarterbacks. I feel like that was a thing that was happening like in the 2000s. Like you think of like Rich Gannon, he played on like four different teams before he won MVP with the Raiders. Doug Williams, like those types of players like that, Jeff Garcia, whatever. Like in the early, 2000s, late 90s, and then it kind of like shifted into like, oh, now we got Peyton, Brady, Rogers, Roethlisberger, all these guys that are on the same team and are just taking over the league. And now we're like back to where it's like a few stars at quarterback, and then you've got these guys that could potentially have big years just depending on what situation they're in. So the way that O'Connell teaches the quarterback position or helps out his quarterback. I mean, you look at the other dysfunctional teams. We can touch on the Jaguars, but you put Trevor Lawrence in Minnesota. Oh man, I mean that's probably deadly, but it really comes down to coaching, man. It's crazy. It really is. And that's why I love football, bro, because it's strategy, so much strategy combined with athleticism, which you just don't really get in any other sport.
Yeah, that coaching is so insanely important at the NFL. I mean, we've seen it with the Broncos over the last, you know, however many years. Hackett was there for what, 11 games, 13 games, and looked awful. He looked horrible. And then they put in the special teams guy, Jerry Rosburg, and they look good over the last two games. They legitimately look like a good team. And you're like, wow, that's insane. Sean Payton comes in, they go 8-9. They almost have a winning season. They're like two plays away from probably making the playoffs last season. This year, they obviously look way better. With the defense looks incredible. The offense is finally starting to get some steam. And with when it comes to the Vikings, even last season, like Kirk Cousins was having an incredible season before he tore his Achilles. Like they weren't playing, the team wasn't playing at the level that they did in 2022 when they win the division, they go to the playoffs and have all that success that they did. But they were still having a really, really solid season. He goes down, you think, all right, man, that season's done. Especially with Justin Jefferson, he was also injured at that time. And then they get Josh Dobbs, and he looks incredible. He looks great. He has that insane run where he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then once his magic starts to fizzle out, Nick Mullins comes in. He starts throwing for like 400 yards a game, and Kevin O'Connell, like yeah, that guy just has a mind that just understands how to run a team. And there's so much that goes into running an offense. Like everything has to be in sync at the exact same time and work so perfectly. If one guy is half a second late on the offensive line, or if the receiver is a half a second late getting out of his break, the play doesn't work, the route doesn't work, everything is messed up. And that Vikings offense is just running on a they're just running on a system that everybody knows where everyone's going to be at the time that they have to be at. Like Matt Ryan was saying it during the post game show after the Broncos game, where he's like, "Listen, everyone has to get on my page." When he's talking about the Jets receivers and Aaron Rodgers, like everyone has to get on my page. The quarterback's not on your page. Receivers are on the quarterback's page. And right now, everybody's on Sam Darnold's page. Everyone's
Right.
on Kevin O'Connell's page, and it's working really, really well. And you mentioned Brian Flores as well. They were gaining steam in terms of this defense looking like this last season. It took them a while to get on the same page with Flores, but man, that team is built so well. And you said it perfectly. They're kind of built like the Broncos, where it's not a ton of guys, a lot of just guys from other teams or late round picks or undrafted guys who are coming in and just performing so well. Cam Bynum's been a turnover machine in the secondary. Obviously, Harrison Smith is still playing at a very high level, but Andrew Van Ginkel is a good addition. Obviously, he has a familiarity with Flores from Miami. Jonathan Grenard has been really, really good. Pat Jones, out of nowhere, is one of the leading sackers in the NFL. So this is this is a legit good team, and they're coached very, very well. I don't know how far, like if they keep this up, I don't know how far they'll go in the playoffs because of they don't have the super high end talent on defense, and ultimately, I think that is what carries you in the playoffs. But they're a fun team to watch right now, and I think you just got to ride it as long as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you brought up, a great point with the quarterbacks. Like it's just like comes down to instilling like you said that the team Sam Darnold's calling the shots, like everybody knows like you got to be on Sam Darnold's page, and that's the thing. I think you have to be on the quarterback has to know he's like the guy to just instill that confidence in him, with Baker going from you don't really think of the Buccaneers as some high, Kevin O'Connell, really smart offensive mind type team, but they put their trust fully into Baker. And you see the results of it. Um, and so that's really what it is. And that's what I've been like Justin Herbert should be better than what he's been over the past few years. And I think that does come down to coaching for the Chargers. Um, I just don't know if I don't know. I don't know, man. Like Herbert is just so talented, and for him to just be,
Yeah.
I think it comes down to Brandon Staley and all those guys. But, um, anyways, yeah, Vikings got the win. They almost blew it. It was 28-0. Like we didn't mention that at all, but it was 28-0.
Yeah.
Or was it 28? Yeah, it was 28
Yeah,
nothing.
28 nothing, and then it was a 6-point game with 10 minutes left. Like there
Right.
wasn't exactly garbage time in this game.
Yeah. Um, Jordan Love, at first, he was really the one that put the Packers in the hole. Three interceptions, and lots of inaccurate throws. Obviously rusty, but he'll bounce back, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, he
uh,
got hot late in the game. He looked
yeah,
really, really
yeah,
good later.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm surprised he even played. That's an aggressive move from the
I
medical staff
know
and the
it's
coaching staff.
crazy. Like we thought week one at first. I was like, damn, this could be like a whole season thing, and then all of a sudden it
Hmm.
was like, wait, it's not as bad as you think. He could come back. Very early. And to think that he did that in week one and he only missed 3 games is pretty or he only missed 2 games. It's pretty
Yeah,
wild. All right. I kind of maybe like want to touch on these 2 games, 2 division games, Saints, Falcons, Jaguars, Texans. Saints Falcons was a really good game. I think the Falcons got pretty lucky in this one because they didn't score an offensive touchdown. Yeah, they did not. Their 2 touchdowns came from the muffed punt by Shaheed and then the pick six by Anderson, the linebacker. And then they got those game winning field goals. I feel like the Saints really like outplayed them.
yeah.
Saints outgained them. Bijan Robinson didn't do too. I mean, here we go again with the Falcons. Just like, dude. But honestly, Algier ran it better than Bijan. So, um, you know, that makes sense to keep playing him. But yeah, I mean, huge divisional game for both these two teams who seem like actually now the Buccaneers are probably the best team in that division now. But um, that's gonna be a really like these 3 teams. I feel like could all have like the same record in week
Yeah.
16 or something. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean that's how it was last year. Like they were all pretty
yeah,
much
yeah,
neck and neck. Falcons probably should have won that division just based on talent. But their quarterback situation was so messed up. New Orleans had no idea what they were doing. Um, but yeah, Tampa looks like they're the best team in the division, but it's going to be very, very competitive. Both these teams could like the NFC South somehow. I thought it was going to be clearly the worst division in football coming into the season. Um, but the Saints looked elite through the first 2 weeks, and then 2 rough losses after that, and then Atlanta's starting to get going a little bit. They had the good win against Philly, but then the bad loss a week ago to Kansas City. So like they're still trying to find their footing. But I feel like once the season keeps going, I mean, we're only into week 5. Like these teams are just now about to figure out who they are identity wise when it's so new like Atlanta is. Um, but I mean, they're a fun team to watch regardless. I mean, that defense is legitimately good, and that is something that we haven't said about Atlanta for a long time. And if this offense can just start to get on the same page with a lot of different things, then it will be good. But yeah, like you said, like here we go again with the Falcons and the stat stuff. Yeah, Bijan Robinson 7 carries for 28 yards. Like that's just not enough touches for him. Drake London was their leading receiver, but yeah, 12 targets, only 6 catches out of those. Kyle Pitts had 3 targets, no catches. Like it's like man, you have all this you have all this talent on this offense, and they still cannot figure out how to use it, and it just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
But that's is Kyle Pitts good? Like, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's
that's
so
true.
he just needs to go to another team, and then we're gonna Denver. Hello, hello. Um, and then we'll figure out if he's a good player or not. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. I think the Falcons' defense is great. Obviously, their secondary it has all the big names on it. But I mean, their defensive line is very formative too. I mean, Grady Jarrett's still there. Matthew Judon's been having a good year, and then um, other guys like Zach Harrison rotates in there. He's pretty good. So yeah, huge win for the Falcons. Texans Jaguars. This was a much closer game than I thought. I I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaguars obviously playing with all that desperation, but how they looked against Buffalo is really concerning. I was thinking the Texans would just blow them out and the Jaguars season would be, effectively over, which it honestly might be. Like they still lost the game, but at least they were in it. Um, and then post game, Doug Peterson is at the podium and they're kind of talking about like what needs to change with the offense. And Peterson's like, I think our play calls were good. We just need to be making he goes like we just need to be making the plays. Like he like studies, he's about to say the throws. I think he was kind of throwing Trevor Lawrence under the bus there. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't know. You're paying him $50 million a year. Ultimately, that's Jacksonville's fault. But you're also expecting a lot more out of the guy that you drafted number one overall. All this, and I just brought up that maybe he could be good in Minnesota. And but ultimately, right now, he really doesn't look good. Um, maybe that's a confidence thing. Uh, I don't know because obviously he has all the tools, but he's still like sailing these throws like he was doing last year. Just over the receiver's head, even though they're wide open. It's like, bro, like how are you missing these when you're supposed to be the next Peyton Manning? Like everything about you is perfect, but then he misses these easy throws. Um, it, it's tough. They finally could run the ball this game, which they hadn't been doing all season. Tank Bigsby looks like the best running back on their team. It really is insane how quickly running backs age. Like
Yeah.
ETN looks so much older than he did like 2 years ago. It's insane. Um, I still think they got a lot of talent at receiver. Like I really like Brian Thomas. Kirk is good. I guess Gabe Davis really is just nobody now. He had one reception for -2 yards. But man, really disappointed by. Oh, Devin Duvernay's still around. I didn't even know he was in the NFL. He's on the Jaguars.
And it's still in the Ravens.
I just hadn't heard of him in a long time. So yeah, I mean, very disappointing season by the Jaguars. I would assume Doug Peterson gets let go soon. But at least they kept it close. That was respectable.
They didn't get killed like they did against Buffalo. I was surprised, like you said, they were playing with that desperation that they had to play with, which is a good sign at least. It shows that, I don't think Doug Peterson has completely lost the locker room. I think, throwing your players under the bus is not the greatest look, and that could come back to bite him in terms of losing the locker room. But going into the game, he definitely hadn't lost it. And they definitely played like it. They did a good job. Defensively, they did good. They didn't allow a second half touchdown. They didn't allow second half points until the last second touchdown. Um, but I think they had a defense out there for too long. We were talking about the Buffalo Jacksonville game last week, and you were like, offense didn't look good, but the defense was worse probably.
Yeah,
And the defense did play good this game. I think the offense, you know, I feel if you're a coach, yes, you have to have your coaches back and saying like, yeah, I thought our play calling was good, but you also just have to say, hey, they just made more plays than us, not that we have to make more plays. Like that is not something that you should say in the media. You cannot throw
right.
your players under the bus because ultimately those guys are way more important than your coaches when it comes to having their trust and everything like that. The coaches are gonna they're going to be fine. So that's a tough look for Doug Peterson. The fact that he's not fired yet tells me that they're going to give him a little bit. I don't know when their bye week is, but I would assume they're going to give him until then. They have Colts next week, which could be a win. I don't know what Anthony Richardson's status is. Then they have the Bears in London. Um, then they have the Patriots. Then they have the Packers. And then they have the dang, their bye week is late. It's not until like the middle of November. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
They're not going to give them that long. But they don't have that tough of a schedule over the next few games. Um, it's Colts, Bears, Patriots. They could easily go 3-0
Yeah.
in those games. And then you're sitting at 3-4 and you're like, okay, you have a chance. You have some momentum. You're looking good. Then it gets kind of tough because then you go Packers, Eagles, Vikings, Lions, Texans, and then that's like Jesus Christ, that is a ridiculous stretch. But at least if you have some momentum going in those games, you're thinking, all right, we have a chance. So I think it's after these 3 games that is when they'll give. That's how much time they'll give Doug Peterson because these are 3 easy games, the easiest games you've had so far this year. And if you can't win it, then that's tough. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence has to be better. He's just missing throws. Like it's not like the defense he's playing are really good. He just has to take the check down and take what's there and be really conservative. No, he's taking shots and they're open. He's just missing them. And yeah, the run game finally worked. But yeah, Tank Bigsby looks better than ETN. I feel like we bring that up every single week, and that's not a good sign if you're Travis Etienne. Um, yeah, it's a dysfunctional offense right now. It's a dysfunctional team right now, and I expected so much more out of Jacksonville this season. I thought they were going to be good, but I think last year the way
No.
that they ended last season, they had a stranglehold on that division for 10 weeks, and just completely fell apart over the back half of the year. And I really
So
that's
wow, yeah.
100% carried over.
So is this 12 in a row or something they've lost? 10 in a row?
I think it's like 8 in a row.
Is it only
Eight
eight?
in a row.
I don't
I
know
don't
why
know
I
if it's. There's
thought
no
they
way it's
lost like
12. There's no way it's that much.
yeah, they didn't lose eight in
Um,
a row, right? I don't know.
but I remember they were like 7-3 last season.
Yeah,
Let me check. I know it was bad.
maybe they
I know
lost
it was
like
bad.
6 in a row. Um, but yeah, Texans clearly
Shit.
the best team in that division. Um,
Yeah.
the Colts,
Yes.
that game was really interesting too, because you brought up Anthony Richardson. Um, but man, Joe Flacco looked really good. I mean, like respect to Joe Flacco, man. I really love these players who have been around like ever since I can remember, really. Um, and Flacco's one of those guys. And so I mean, I want him to do well. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
he
he's
is.
literally he's in the league like for the love of the game. Like he straight up just loves playing
I
football.
know, but he's
Like
good. Like
that's the only reason he's doing it.
his arm is still like very good. I mean, the ball just pops out of his hand. It's like, damn, this guy's like, really good. And so I'm wondering, in an offense led by the genius Shane Steichen, who can, scheme up things and everything, they're going to have to change their game plan if Richardson is out. Obviously, there's no QB run. Joe Flacco is an absolute statue. That's the other thing is like I thought the statue quarterbacks were like phased out, but Joe Flacco's still in here proving everybody wrong that you can be a successful offense even if your QB can't run. Um, and so I wonder, like, are the Colts, right now at this stage of Richardson's career, better with Flacco at quarterback? Probably.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I think it's not even probably to me. It's yes. Anthony
yeah,
Richardson has not played good this season, and you have a team that is playoff ready, and you have to make the best decision for it. Anthony Richardson, we knew he was raw coming in to last season, and yeah, he has these flashes where he looks good, but most of the time when he's on the field, you don't know what he's doing, and he just needs more development. Flacco's a good guy to learn behind, as a guy who has taken a lot of hits and he's been injured a lot of the time because he thought that he could get a couple extra yards rather than just taking the slide, and that's a good guy to learn behind in terms of how to become a better pocket passer. So I would consider benching him because especially this is a good excuse now because he's injured and he's not going to be out for the rest of the season 100%. but he's injured, so you have an excuse to be like, all right, for the next 4 weeks, just sit and learn behind a vet
Yeah.
and just take it in and yeah, get healthy first of all. But the main objective of this is to learn because it's clearly not you clearly don't have enough right now.
Right, right. But, you can obviously see the potential. And I think a similar player is Justin Fields, and he's thriving now. Um, like I really like how Justin Fields looked in that game. 300
Yeah.
yards passing, running the football too. Um, yeah, Fields looks like a beast, man. And him and Richardson are kind of similar players, I guess, coming into the league. So, it'll take some time for Richardson. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any
And I will say,
other.
I'll go back to the Jaguars real quick.
Yeah,
So last season they were 8-3
damn.
going into December. They beat Houston in Houston to go to 8-3. So they're really riding high, and they have a stranglehold in the division at that point. Then they lose in overtime to Cincinnati without Joe Burrow at home. And they lose on the road at Cleveland by 4 points. They get killed against Baltimore at home. Lose to Tampa Bay on the road, and then beat Carolina. So they're 9-7 at this point, and I think this is the point where the entire division was tied at
Yeah.
9-7. And then they lose to Tennessee the
Wait,
last
so
game of the
did
regular
did
season.
did Lawrence not start that game that they won to
He
go to?
didn't. He was out.
Okay, so that's the stat. It was like Lawrence has lost his last
Yes,
whatever
Trevor Lawrence has
starts.
lost.
All right, so
Yeah,
that's what
so
it is.
he's lost. What is this? One, two, three, four, five. Nine. He's lost 9 games in a row. Um, that's not good. Yeah, CJ Beathard was the starter in that game against Carolina. They won 26-0. I mean, he didn't have a great game, and
What
but
was
that
Bryce
that that is
Young's
what
stat line? Oh my God,
oh yeah.
0 points.
I'm sure it was not good. Let's see what we can find out from this. Bryce Young was Jesus Christ, 19 of 32 for 112 yards and an interception with
Damn,
6 sacks.
damn.
Yeah,
That's
not
tough.
great. Not a great game from Bryce.
No,
Not a
not a
great game from
great,
Bryce.
not a great career. It's tough.
Yeah, so far not so. Here we can get into the Broncos now
Yeah,
because I feel like that's gonna take up a chunk of time. So
yeah,
we'll get into the Broncos before I have to go in like 20 minutes. Um, this was, like I said, one of the most surprising wins that I have witnessed as a Broncos fan. Like anytime the Jets got the ball in the fourth quarter, I was thinking that's it. They're gonna get a touchdown. This is the driver of the offense breaks through, and they get a score, and all the momentum is gonna be in their favor. And you have a rookie quarterback who hasn't been able to grip the ball at all today, and that's gonna be it. But the defense, that was one of the most. I understand the conditions. It was rainy, so that it was playing in their favor. But man, they played so good. Vance Joseph has done such an insane job in terms of dialing up pressure, disguising coverages, making sure the quarterbacks have no idea what's coming. Whether he shows blitz and then he drops back and rushes three, or he's not showing anything and then it's cover zero. Like it literally is unreal. Am I never I'm happy with Vance Joseph. That those are might be the first time those words have come out of my mouth ever. And yeah, he's done an incredible job. The offense did enough. I mean, Bo Nix in the second half looked way better than he did in the first half. Um, and yeah, I mean that's a huge win. You go 2-2 coming into the easiest stretch of your season, as opposed to 1-3. Like, man, that is such a huge win, and it's such a huge confidence build. I mean, yeah, we feel good about this game because they won. But you lose this game, and he's like, dude, Bo Nix just threw for 60 yards in a game and lost. Like, that's awful. But now you're thinking, like, dude, Bo Nix threw for 60 yards and win, and they won. It's like, it changes so drastically because of one play. And man, I now I'm excited to watch this game against the Raiders because I think that this offense has a chance to really break out over the next couple of games.
yeah. I do too. And these next two games are you need to win these games, man. I mean, you don't need to because whatever, you're not expecting the team to really make the playoffs, but it's just like, damn, if they can like these two wins, you're gonna be favored in both of the games, I assume. Um, and so yeah, I mean, just absolutely massive to go 0-2 and then to think you have to go at Tampa, at New York, like fuck, an East Coast trip like that against two teams who are on fire, really coming into both of these games. Like, man, the discussion around the Jets after that Patriots game is like, this team's a AFC championship, caliber team. Um, after the Patriots. So, it's like relax. But there's a lot of hype around this team. And for the defense to do that, I know the weather was bad, but Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback ever in shitty weather. He played in Green Bay for his entire career. It doesn't affect him. Like the ball coming out of his hands. I know he missed that one. I think it was to Conklin where he was open. It would have been a really big gain. That he was running like a crossing route going from right to left, and then Rodgers just missed it short. Maybe that was like the only throw really that I noticed that like was clearly a bad throw, but the fade routes to Williams and to Wilson, I mean, the ball was coming out of his hand very well. So I don't think the weather really affected how he threw the ball that much.
No,
Um,
no, it didn't.
and the most impressive thing to me is the run defense. Um, because coming in this game, I thought Brees Hall would have a huge game because he's had huge games against the Broncos in the past. The Broncos, ever since Vance Joseph was hired, haven't hasn't been able to stop the run. And 10 carries for 4 yards with a long of 3. I mean, it was just every time he got to the line of scrimmage, someone was there and it wasn't even just so, it would be like 3 or 4 Broncos were all there. Like he had no chances to break any tackles or anything like that. Braylon Allen had a much better game, but I also feel like it was blocked better for him. Um,
Yeah.
like obviously they're two different runners, and maybe Allen fit this game better um, because of his more physical running. But like I feel like the holes were a lot bigger for him than they were for Brees. And I wonder if that's just like Vance sees the backup running back in the game, so he's probably like, oh, maybe they might pass it here because it's the backup. So that could be a thing. But yeah, I mean, I loved how aggressive the defense was against Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't thrown the ball really very deep, especially deep down the middle of the field. Like you never see Rodgers anymore, like step up and just throw a missile down the middle of the field like you used to. Um, the only throw down the middle of the field I remember that was like impressive. He was getting hit by Cooper, but it was just a slant. It was like a sidearm slant for a first down. I feel like it was like 3rd and 8. He was getting hit by Cooper and he threw that down the middle of the field. But outside of that, like his deep passes were just out to the boundary, and everything else was underneath. And that's what he did against the Patriots. It's like Rodgers just wants to get to what he wants to get to. Like he'll go up to the line, and then like he's playing Madden or something, just hot route every receiver based on the coverage. But it's nothing like like creative or special. Um, there's no misdirection. There's no really motion. Everything is just basic on their offense. So the Broncos and Vance Joseph could play really aggressive, take out everything underneath. They were playing press the whole game pretty much. Like Riley Moss was pressed up on Mike Williams or whoever he was guarding or Lazard, and then Surtain was pressed up on Wilson, and then McMillan had a good game too in the slot. Um, and so I just think it was just game planned perfectly for this Jets team. And I feel like he's game planned every game well for whichever team he's playing. It's not like the same thing every game, which is cool. So yeah, shout out to Vance Joseph and the defense for making Rodgers' life really uncomfortable. Really, the first play of the game just summed up what was going to happen. When Rodgers got set, like the first play of the game, Vance Joseph brings 7. That's like unheard of.
Yeah.
and Rodgers gets hit. And then there was also that PJ Lock blitz, which was just massive in the fourth quarter, which surprised Rodgers. He had no idea that was coming. So I mean, really, Vance Joseph, it's really anytime you go against Rodgers, it's really just a game of chess mentally. Like, he thinks he's gonna know exactly what the defense is doing, and you got to be ready for that and give him looks and that he hasn't seen before. He's really hard to sack because he just gets the ball out quickly, but sacked him 5 times, and that was massive. Yeah, as you said, the defense not letting up in the fourth quarter like it has done under Vance Joseph. Um, Amazing because I definitely thought one of those final 2 drives that they were gonna. I mean, Zerline like he could have made that field goal obviously, and then we would have been talking about it in a different light, I guess. But um, yeah, I definitely thought that drive. I guess the drive before the Zerline missed drive, I thought they were going to drive down the field because they started with like an 8-yard gain to Lazard, and then Rodgers threw 3 incompletions and then the sack. But I thought they were going to
Yeah.
drive down the field at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the more impressive showings. Like you said, Rodgers, he is the best cold weather quarterback and bad weather quarterback I've ever seen. And yeah, some of these throws, I mean, yeah, he's 40 years old, but these throws were ridiculous. I mean, they look like prime Rodgers throws where he's rolling out, throwing across his body to a guy who's covered. I think the most impressive throw I remember, there was that one where he was getting hit by Cooper, where you could tell he knew it was coming. He changed the protections at the line. He
Right,
knew he
right.
was getting blitzed. He knew
He
he was going to get smacked.
and he called the
And
slant. Yeah.
yes, yeah, he caught right into a slant. He checked to that, and he throws a dime. It's a good coverage. Um, and then the other most impressive one where the coverage was great. He steps up, he rolls to his left, and he's rolling, and then he flips his hips and throws a dot. I mean, Cody Barton gets his
Right over.
fingers on it,
Yeah.
like he tips it, but the spiral is so tight. It's thrown with just enough velocity to where it didn't affect it at all, and it was straight in Tyler Conklin, and it was a beautiful pass. I mean, some of these throws are I was just like, man, this is just great. Like you can't even hate like what you're watching. It's not
But so that's what
like
I'm saying. Like, I don't think the weather affected him at all. And so,
no,
like, I think
it
you can take the weather out of the game for him. Bo Nix looked a lot different. Don't take the weather out for him because he was actually holding the ball like how someone like how a kid would hold it, like under the ball, like his
yeah,
hands
yeah,
not big enough to grip it.
yeah.
um,
Anytime he would roll out, he would throw like this.
yeah,
He'd like push the ball. He wouldn't actually throw it. The
yeah,
second half was a lot better. You could tell second half he got more comfortable. I don't know what
yeah.
they maybe they put stickum on his hands or something,
I don't
but
know,
he was
but
he actually gripping it.
I know that it is concerning though for me that he can't
Mm.
like I mean that was light rain, man. That was pretty light rain. Like it can get a lot worse than that. Um and so I don't know. I'm kind of I guess I thought with him playing at Oregon that he'd, have some experience with rain. I don't does it rain there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or does it just only rain in Seattle?
No, it rains. It
Okay,
rains.
yeah.
It definitely
Um
rains.
so, so I thought he would be more acclimated for sure, but he looked rough
Yeah.
trying to hold the football, which
Yeah, it
is
was
kind of concerning.
weird. I mean, I
Yeah.
was when I was watching the game, I was like screaming. I was like, dude, just wear the damn gloves, man. Like just do something so you can grip the ball. And he just didn't. He kept going with how he was doing it. But yeah, like I said, second half was way better. Um, Obviously, he did have the touchdown, which he somehow almost overthrew. But
Yeah.
the most impressive throw of the game
Dude,
on
that
either,
throw was one of the best throws of the whole week out of anybody that
yeah,
you're about to
like the
bring up.
third,
Yeah.
yeah, the third and 11 on the touchdown drive. I mean, it counted as like a 16-yard gain or something, but he throws it from like his 15-yard line to almost a 40, like on a laser in between 3 defenders. It's just dagger concept where you have a dig and a go route and a crosser coming underneath. So it was a good concept. It's one of the easier throws that a quarterback can make in terms of just a timing route. You know when he's breaking, you know where you're supposed to throw the ball to, but it was still a laser,
Yeah.
and that
Perfect
really got
timing.
yeah, it was great timing, and
Perfect time. Yeah.
It looked like
That's what it
Shadur
was.
out there. And it was good. Like that throw really, I honestly think that throw got the offense rolling. It got them in a rhythm. And capping off, that was another drive where I'm like, man, you have to get 6-7 here because they were down six. A field goal, you're like, dude, this is the only time you're gonna get this close. You have to score a touchdown. And on 3rd and 7, they're able to get it. It's wide open. He almost overthrows it, but it's touchdown nonetheless. And there's another thing with his footwork. I mean, he's like pointing the wrong direction when he's throwing the ball. I really that needs to get cleaned up. But man, it still is a touchdown, and that drive was like, man, I haven't seen a drive like that in a long time, where it's because of the quarterback and the run game finally started getting going. Javonte Williams looked good, especially in the second half, where he was like running over guys. He was dragging defenders for an extra 3 to 4 yards. Something we have not seen from him in 2 full seasons.
Yeah,
And man, it was good to see. That the second half, even though they only scored 10 points in the second half, the offense actually looked like it had some sort of identity. And I think had they not played conservative on that last drive, had they actually tried to, go and get a first down rather than just settling for the 50-yard field goal, it would have looked a lot better because they were just running it out and they just wanted to force the Jets to use their timeouts and run the clock out. But they it looked good, and I'm looking forward to this game against Vegas because I do think that there's room for this offense to really explode, especially against a team that is in so much dysfunction right now. They're not going to have a lot of their best defensive players. You have to go out and play well.
I know.
And
But yeah,
specifically the run game, man. I need to touch on like the run game actually looked good, and it hasn't looked good all season, but it looked good against a really really good Jets defense and a really good Jets front seven. And
and not to mention they know you're running the ball. Like,
yeah, every time. Javonte Williams has faced the most stacked boxes in the NFL over the first 4 weeks, and it wasn't any different against New York. And they still were able to get something going. And Jaleel McLaughlin also had some good runs where he's breaking tackles, dragging guys for a couple extra yards. Stuff that he can do, but it's not what he's normally doing. But that's just what we've wanted to see out of this offense. Some sort of juice in the running game where you see what you're used to seeing from these guys, where it's making guys miss or breaking tackles and dragging guys for an extra couple of yards after the run. And Javonte Williams really, really did that. And yeah, there was a really good second half. But the defense, like we've touched on it already, but the defense was just so good. And, Surtain did a phenomenal job on Garrett Wilson. I mean, he was blanketing coverage every single time, and his tackling was great. Jaquan McMillan had a ridiculously good game in the slot in terms of tackling at the line of scrimmage, not making sure anything short wasn't getting there on his side of the field. Riley Moss had another good game. He had the 2 penalties, but I
man,
really didn't
that
think.
that pass interference really made me mad, bro, because it's just like
Yeah, I
you're guarding them so well the whole game, and then you get this phantom like PI call that's just not really like I don't know, man. It was barely anything, I thought.
Yeah, like
Uh,
I get why the ref thought it was because he's not looking at the ball and he is in the airspace, but he wasn't touching Mike Williams. Mike Williams
I
is
know.
leaning into it, and
Yeah.
that's why it was called. But that's the one thing he's probably got to get cleaned up. Just get his head turned around a little bit more, have a little more awareness of when the ball might be coming to your
Right,
receiver.
right. I agree.
But overall, I thought he's had a really good season. He had a really good game, uh, and yeah, I mean this team has some momentum. And yeah, they're going into three. They're going into three really really easy games at home. You go home against the Raiders, home against the Chargers, and on the road Thursday night against New Orleans, which is actually I'm actually pretty excited
Oh
for that game
man,
because
that's that.
of
When do we play the Panthers? Why did I feel like that was the Panthers game?
that's the week after.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
yeah, week after that's just normal Sunday game, but that is also at home. So that's 3 out of your next 4 games at home against teams that you should beat, and then a road game in 2 weeks, depending on how the Saints look. That could be a very, very interesting game as well. So this is there's momentum. Because here's the thing, they could be what is that 5-3 after these games. They win their home games, they lose a game against the Saints. That's probably what I'm expecting. Or best case scenario, that's probably what happens. Because then they go into an absolute gauntlet of a schedule after that. They go, they
Yeah.
go on the road against the Ravens, on the road against the Chiefs, at home against the Falcons, and on the road against the Raiders. and then at home against the Browns, at home against the Colts, and then on the road against the Chargers, on the road against Bengals, and then at home against Kansas City. So there's not a single gimme game after that. You have your gimme games now. Take them when you can get them. And man, if you're 5-3, I'm pretty sure that's going into a bye week. Oh no, when's Denver's bye? When is their bye? Oh, their bye's late, and their bye is in like
I like that though, because
oh
that's the
really?
tough part of the schedule is late
Yeah, yeah,
down there. Um,
yeah. Their bye is after their Monday night game against Cleveland.
Damn,
I
that
didn't even
is
know they
late.
had a Monday night game, so that's pretty good. Um, but yeah, they have some gimme games, and I'm excited to see how it looks because I feel like this is when Bo Nix can really start to get in a rhythm. If he doesn't show some legit flashes, then I'm going to be concerned. But I legitimately do think that he will, and I think this offense can have some games where they potentially put up 30 points.
Yeah, I agree. It can't be it is a big letdown. I feel like this game could go either way, where it's just like the Broncos blow
It's
out
a
the
trap
Raiders
game.
because you have all
It's a
this
huge trap
momentum.
game.
Because there's so much stuff, man. It's the jersey stuff, the amount of promotion the Broncos have done on the jerseys. The whole stadium's gonna look like 1977. Man, I bet the crowd is gonna be as loud as it's been in a long time. Um, you have all this hype, I guess. I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff outside of football right now that I'm hoping doesn't get into these guys' heads. I don't think it will. I feel like this team's pretty, even though it's young, they're like a mature young. Like I think Bo Nix kind of sums up the team. I really love how he does his post game stuff because it sounds like he's like a 10-year vet. Like he's telling people like what to do, or he's like he's talking to him like he's been in the league for so long. He's like, oh, it's really good to have a leader like Sutton. Um, like he's seen it before. And so I think that's cool to see. And I think that's what kind of sums up it's a young but mature team.
Yeah, young but mature.
Yeah.
That is a great way to put it. And yeah, I just hope because I remember 2021, Denver's coming into a game against Vegas with a ton of momentum. The Raiders are in complete dysfunction. John Gruden has all the stuff that comes
Dude,
out. They
yeah, that's the
fired him,
right, right.
and they come into that game with it's at home with you're thinking you're going to do a good game, but then you lose in pretty embarrassing fashion at home against Vegas. That is the only game that's in my mind right now when I think about this because right now there's so much going on with the Raiders
Yeah,
internally that you absolutely have to win this game. And if you do not win this game, that is
right,
bad. And
right.
it obviously the promotional stuff with the throwback jerseys and everything that goes into it. But I'm thinking just like on the field, Vegas is not a good team right now. And if you lose this game because your defense can't hold an offense that sucks, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also the other thing is Devontae Adams is out. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean that's another thing to think about, but it's also on the field. That's I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Because Devontae had that huge game against the Broncos, the game you're talking about, I
Yeah,
think. Um,
yeah,
so yeah. Uh need this win, man. I mean, division game, obviously, these next 2 weeks, 4-2. If we go 5-3 in that stretch you were talking about, I'll be happy for sure.
yeah.
Um,
That's I think 5-3 after 8 weeks is a great spot to be with the rookie quarterback. With how tough the schedule started defense wise, I think you're going to be living with that. And yeah. Plus, you gotta beat the Raiders, man. You just have to.
oh,
It's so long. The last quarterback to beat the Raiders was Drew Lock. Like it's got to change at some point. It
dude,
has to change at some point.
I was like, I don't know. Is it weird that like I think Bo Nix kind of looks like Drew Lock, like quarterbacking, like the way the ball comes out of his hand is like the way he throws it. Like that dagger into Sutton, like the way he threw it looked a
It
lot
did.
like Drew Lock, and the touchdown to Sutton where it was like overthrown. It's like, it's like a Drew Lock type of throw. Um,
Definitely, it definitely looks like it. Hopefully, it turns out better than Drew.
I
Hopefully, he
know.
can turn out a little better. But
Yeah, yeah. There's still hope in
yeah.
Drew Lock for me, but yeah,
So, hey man, the Giants. We'll see.
I
There's a
know. Except
chance.
Daniel Jones actually looks good this year somehow.
Yeah, he doesn't look. He doesn't look like
I don't
ass
know if he looks
right now.
good, but yeah, he doesn't look ass.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be it. We can touch on the Nuggets for like 5 minutes because I have to go shower and go to work. Um, we can touch on the Nuggets. They play their first preseason game tomorrow, which is first off insane. The fact that it's already here, like
I know.
I knew that it was gonna come up, but the fact that it's already October has not hit me once at all.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
And
swear, like that's I was just thinking that. Like when it was October 1st, like I had to like re-look at the thing because I saw some date that said like 10/01. I'm like, no way it's October. Like I just swore it was September 23rd, like yesterday.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I know that's crazy. And now it's the third already.
yeah, it really came
October's
out
the
of
best
nowhere.
month. I was at the Avs game Tuesday. So I mean that was crazy
Oh,
too. Um, yeah.
yes, October is the best
October
month.
is
We got
amazing.
postseason baseball right now. The Broncos getting in, or NFL's getting into their season like fully now. The basketball starting up, hockey starting up, everything's starting up. Um, yeah, it's gonna be fun. Speaking of the Nuggets, we haven't talked about them literally since they lost, probably against Minnesota. Um, this is gonna be an exciting year. We're not gonna have to go too in depth on it. One, because we don't have time, and two, because we want to just give more attention to them when we can. But just going in the next two games, no Peyton Watson in these two games. I don't even know if Peyton Watson is going to be playing in the preseason at all. He has a hamstring issue right now, and they're going to be
Yeah.
safe with him. But obviously, the main thing I'm looking forward to, I'm not worried about the starters. I think Christian Brown's going to look fine with them in these next two games. I will say I do think starters are going to play because it is a an international game, so I think they're going to play their guys just so that people overseas can see him play, especially Jokic and Murray. Um, but I'm just looking to see how Westbrook looks, man. I'm looking to see how Westbrook and Strawther specifically look. I'm looking to see how the offense runs with Saric manning that. I wonder who the backup four is gonna be, whether they put Zeke in there or whether they put Blanco in there. Because I'm pretty sure Hunter Tyson's just gonna slide into wherever Peyton would be. So I'm excited. It should be a some good games. Obviously, the Celtics are a good team, so but it's preseason, so winning doesn't really matter. I just want to see how
Yeah.
they look, if they're generating good shots, if Russ can mesh well with the team, if it looks like they have some sort of identity. Obviously, it'll take a while for the bench to get an identity, but I think this is the first time they have a legit, true table setter, playmaker, point guard at that position since Monte Morris.
Ante,
Like
yeah.
it's been a while since there's been a guy like that in the backcourt. So excited to see how it looks. And obviously, I love basketball, so just the basketball being back is obviously the best.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what Strawther looks like. I feel like he could be one of those X factor. I don't know. There's like a lot of dudes that you can like categorize as like an X factor. Like if Russ has a great season, Nuggets could win a championship. If Strawther or Watson or Brown, have great season. Like they could go either way, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really excited for Strawther because I think he brings to the bench some juice that we haven't seen since like Will Barton, like scoring juice.
Yeah,
And or like Bone, I guess Bones maybe goes up there, but um yeah, I really like the stuff Strawther can bring. Just being 6'7" sharpshooter guy who can also go in the lane and have some touch with the floater. I think he's got real potential, and his defense looked better than I thought last year. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, very
it'll be fun. Yeah,
excited for these games.
Strawther and Russ are the two guys who I'm looking
Yeah,
at because I think
yeah,
those are the two most important players on the bench. Obviously, Peyton Watson's going to be there, but we already saw how he looked last season. We know that he can be a contributor on both ends, um, whether it's in the playoffs or whether it's in the regular season. He can be a contributor, so I'm not too worried about him. Obviously, I want to see the shooting improve. I want to see off the dribble stuff improve. I want to see him get to the free throw line a little bit more. But you already know what you're going to get defensively, and the athleticism. So I'm not too worried about that. It's just that combination with Strawther and Westbrook, I think, should be the identity of the bench, where it's run and get shots up, and literally just run the other unit out of the gym. Because Denver's starting lineup is not going to do that. I think Christian Brown helps. He's a great transition player, but you have Jokic. Calvin Booth said it like, yeah, we want to get more threes up. We want to have elite shooters everywhere, but you have the best player in the world. You're not going to change the way you play because you have him. Like he's a guy who plays slow and methodical. You're going to get a lot of paint shots. You're going to get a lot of mid-range shots. Like, why would we change that when you have the best player in the world and it's worked before? But I think that bench unit's a different story. You can really change the way that you play. Obviously, in the half court, you can play the Jokic style with Saric as the hub, who can do a lot of the things that Jokic can from a passing perspective at least and mismatch perspective. But in transition, you have two guys who should be able to help you out a lot. And when Watson comes back, he's another guy who a lot of his buckets should come in transition and on the fast break. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how that bench unit looks because this bench unit, I think the floor is probably really low for this bench unit because if Russ plays bad, and we know Russ can be really bad, like his floor is really low. But if that ceiling is so high, because like Strother brings juice that hasn't been there in a while. We have said it for the last 2 seasons. Anytime we play a team that has uh, a bench like lightning rod, we're like, dang, the Nuggets need something like
Right.
that, and I think Strother
Exactly.
can be exactly that. And I think he was gearing towards that. I mean, the team kept saying like, yeah, this was a rotation player until he got injured, and it just they got too deep into the year to reintegrate him. And yeah, if he stays healthy, I think he plays defense at the same level he was at last year, and his shooting just becomes more consistent. And I think he can be a legit problem for other teams. And I think Westbrook has talked about being a leader, being a guy who runs in transition, and he's mentioned Strother as the guy's like, yeah, man, my job is to get him open shots, and that's what I'm looking for the next few games. So it'll be interesting to see it. And I'm really excited uh, for this. I mean, just having Russ on the team, we haven't like talked about that at all. Like
I know. I
that's
know.
like such a crazy like. Tell me that in 2018 is like, dude, Russell Westbrook's going to be on the Nuggets in 5 years. Like, huh? It's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm really excited to see how this can turn out.
I know. It's weird how like some of the veterans, like same thing with DeAndre Jordan, really.
Yeah.
Um, DeMarcus Cousins. It's funny how that happens, but yeah, there's also like the story that Shams put out yesterday about like the Nuggets and Aaron Gordon are concerned they might not get a deal done before the contract extension deadline, which is in like 10 days or something like that, around 2 weeks. Um, Obviously, you want him to sign a deal. It just goes back to the new CBA, all that stuff. It's tough. I don't know what's gonna happen with that, really. I have
Yeah.
no like
I think they'll get a
opinion.
deal done. If you look at the way that Calvin talked about Aaron Gordon versus KCP last year, I mean that's honestly when the concern about KCP started leading was the
Yeah,
media day where he's like, yeah, man, yeah, we want to get a deal done, we want to keep him, but Christian Brown can play in
right,
this spot and do a lot of the same things. So we're gonna be good if he stays or leaves. And at that point, you're like, oh, god dang it. But with Aaron Gordon, he's like, yeah, this is an integral part of the team. We want to keep him. Like they didn't even talk about guys who could slot in and play in
right.
need. Like he was like, no, we want to keep him. So I think they're gonna get a deal done. I think he's a guy that they'll splurge on. I think when Michael Porter Jr. is up for an extension next year, then it might get a little tricky because I think he's a guy who Calvin Booth could let go. But Aaron Gordon's not one of them. I think Calvin views him as the third best guy on this team. So we'll see. But yeah, that probably has to do it
Yeah.
for me. I have to get going.
All
But
right. Yeah,
that is if you want to stay on, I can leave it going. You can just
it's all good. That was a good episode.
yeah. Good episode. We will keep you updated on both Broncos and Nuggets when those games happen. Nuggets play tomorrow and Sunday. Broncos obviously on Sunday. So next week we'll get it going. Talk more about it. Talk more about what we saw, and hopefully it's a happy weekend. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm